Hey everybody, Nick here. Welcome back to the channel. In this life, we all need to have the essentials to survive living in this hell realm, okay? Now, that would include food, shelter, water, and clean water, clean air, if possible, which is becoming more and more hard to come by. And one of the main things I'm going to talk about is the shelter aspect. I may do a video on all the other essentials and tied in with some other topic. But you ever noticed that most people cannot afford to even buy a shit house, an outhouse, whatever you want to call it? All people can seem to afford is, if that at all, would be a basic apartment. Now, we all agree that it would be better to own, depending on who you are or who you ask. I basically rented pretty much my whole life. Even I think my parents never owned a house. And back in the day, you could afford to pay rent and live well, okay, on one parent's salary. And nowadays, forget it. You're going to end up with some crummy one-bedroom apartment. And I give comparisons to Toronto because I think a one-bedroom now is like $2,600. Now, who even gets that per month? The average salary, I think, is like, after tax, maybe like $2,000, $2,200. I don't know, depending on, the average job, right? And what for? For a box. Unless you work from home, you're not even getting you're not even using it to its full potential. You're literally going to work every day, if you work every day, 9 to 5 type job. Some people work 6 days a week. So you're literally spending most of your time out working somewhere than you are in your own home that you're paying most of your salary for. Does this make any sense at all? For me, it never, if you were paying, the rule of thumb is to pay, I think, 1/3 of your salary on housing. But most people are paying like 55-60% now, at least in Canada. That's what's happening. And for what? You're going to spend most of your time out of your place. And there are some pros and cons of renting an apartment or renting a condo or whatever. You can move around whenever you feel like, but let's be realistic. Most people are not going to be nomading around, okay, unless you work from home. And in that case, you wouldn't be renting long-term an apartment or whatnot. And from what I understand, apartments are becoming more and more scarce. And when they are scarce, guess what happens? Prices go up. And there tends to be a quote-unquote bidding war for that place. And it could be the shittiest place you've seen, and it'll still rent out. I'm basically going from my experience in Toronto. Like, what options do we have? And young people can't even afford a home anymore unless you're making 6 figures plus. Even 6 figures isn't going to cut it for you to put maybe a down payment on a house, but then if you get a mortgage, you're going to pay that off. It's going to take you years to pay that off. There's no freedom, and the system is built for that. There's no freedom. You either rent a place and never own anything, never own something for yourself when you get older, and if you have kids, leave it for the kids or whatever. But if you own something, you're forever going to be paying property tax. You're probably going to be paying the mortgage off still. Like, I've heard people paying mortgages 35-year mortgages, and they're in their late 30s, early 40s. I mean, you're basically be paying that off until you're an old person, until you're a senior citizen. Otherwise, you pass it on to your kids and they continue. I mean, there really is no solution to this. And it's all built by this system that we're stuck to. And I mentioned this system many times. It's a human construct, like everything else pretty much. But this one is to keep you in complete and utter destitute. Even if you have money, even if you're working and you're paying the bills, you're still stuck in this loop. You're still stuck in this, and I can't say never ending, because eventually, no matter what you do, we're all gonna croak. So it will have to come to an end eventually. You have to make the choice as to what you want in this life. Do you want to spend your whole life that you have one shot at in this advanced simulation, matrix, whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe it is, constantly working and never showing anything for it? I'm not trying to make you feel bad, because I was there and I'm still there. I've become autonomous and I sort of have a little bit more freedom. I don't live in my home country of Canada anymore. I'm able to pay the bills and have a little bit of money left over. I do rent a house, which is approximately, I would say, 450 Canadian dollars. So is that 350 US dollars per month? And I work from home. I know that not everybody is able to get out of the system. I've had somebody ask me what things they could do to get out of it. There really is no clear solution. You just have to try to bank as much of the paper as you can, because unfortunately that's the currency of this life. You don't have the paper, you're basically done for, which will force you to be out on the street. You'll be, going hungry. And I know a lot of people cannot see the light. A lot of people are still stuck in the system, maybe because they make good money, so for them they're not feeling affected. But they will feel affected, because eventually the inflation, the worth of the currency will decrease over time. I mean, it's already been happening. But I think people are just really content with, and comfortable, very comfortable, rather than making big drastic changes that will be slightly painful and uncomfortable, right? Because in order to make change, there's going to be discomfort. And I don't mean pain necessarily, just when it's the unfamiliar or unfamiliar territory, it challenges your comfort zone. You have to get out of your comfort zone, but it'll challenge your comfort overall, your overall belief of what your life should be like, or how you think your life should be. It's a big world. There's lots of places you can go. I don't recommend doing it unless you have a good amount of backup money. That's the other thing. A lot of people don't have the fuck you money, which I like to use that phrase, because it's like saying, I don't need this job, I don't need to rent anymore, I don't need any of this. But within this system, and I know I was talking about rental and apartments and stuff, but within this system, it's just, everyone's playing a part, and it's really hard to try to convince, or at least show people what is going on with this system, how it controls people. it's just really, really difficult to try to explain to people that this common system, that this, what would I say, how would I put it? All we've known, this is all we've known. So it's hard to try and imagine another alternative way to live. So back to apartments and all of this stuff, how I got, I was talking about that. It's all intertwined. So that's why sometimes I'll lead to another topic or subtopic. But there's no other choice. There really is no other choice. You either fall in line with the system, renting an apartment that is probably a box. I mean, I lived in a bachelor, which is not even a one bedroom. Your bedroom is your living room is your bedroom. So, and I mean, it wasn't a terrible apartment and it was a decent area, so I won't talk bad about that, but not everyone is so lucky. And you're paying most of your rent out of that. I mean, I was paying back then, this was like 2018, 2019, I was probably paying about 1,000 Canadian dollars for a bachelor, which was about half my paycheck. I was making $2,000 Canadian a month after tax, which is nothing. And I was still, but I had another job and I was able to stay afloat. So I can't imagine how people out there across the world, I know that there's worse places than US and Canada. I mean, but all across the world, poverty is becoming an epidemic. It always existed, but it's becoming far worse. The wealthy keep getting wealthier. People keep putting their faith in the politicians when they keep getting wealthier themselves. All you need to think about is, am I happy renting? I mean, the really only two options are renting or owning, like I mentioned. And that's all there is. It feels like you're forced into a corner because no matter what, if you don't have the paper, you have nothing. You don't have clothing on your back, no food, no shelter. I can't imagine how homeless people go through day in and day out, what they must endure. And then I'm thinking about a lot of people who are constantly stressed, hate their job. Sure, they have enough money to get by, but is this really what life is supposed to be about? I don't know what I'm going to name this video, but maybe apartments. Life is an apartment. You're trapped and you're paying. I don't know. I just was thinking about, at a certain point, it stops making sense to rent. Some people, if they have enough money, like if you're making, let's say you're making $2,500, $3,000 a month, whether it's American or Canadian, is that enough to have a mortgage? I don't know. I don't know what the going rate is on mortgages. I don't know what rents are really in the US these days, but I'm sure they're comparable to Canada, maybe cheaper in US than Canada, but not by much. And that's the thing, there's lack of affordable housing too in Canada and the US, which shoots up these prices of current properties because of supply and demand. But when it all boils down to, it's this system. This system is flawed in so many ways. Again, I'm gonna get the people, what do you suggest then? What do you think we do? What can we do about it? And I'm not saying all of you are like that. I'm just saying you always get these people who are happy with the system, happy with the status quo. When you're happy with the status quo, you're just going to keep droning on. You're going to keep working that dead-end job, or you're going to keep working that high-paying job that you can't stand. Like, I'm sure not everyone who has become a lawyer, who has become a doctor, or any other jobs are happy with where they have landed in life. Because it's kind of like taking these blocks and trying to jam them in the wrong shape. That's what's happened in this world when it comes to the job market, and a lot of people are just really unhappy where they are. And they, like, you get doctors and lawyers or dentists or whatever who wish they'd just become writers or musicians, and people think that those jobs aren't paying and whatever. You have to follow your dreams. Yeah, I know at the end of the day nothing really matters, but do you really want to get to the end of the day and get there just be miserable the whole way until the end? It's like a journey. You're traveling somewhere. You're excited to be getting there. You've never been there, so you don't know exactly what to expect. But you had a shitty time getting there. Is that really going to make the final destination, whatever it may be, a great experience? I don't think so. All I can say is renting apartments suck. Owning also sucks, whether it's a house or condo, because you're chained to that responsibility and that, how would I say, well, I don't even know what the hell I can call it. Financial prison, economic prison, I guess I would say. And you have no choice but to work. On one hand, if you rent, you can get out of it whenever you want, scot-free. You lose your job, no problem. You can maybe find a family member to go to, a friend's, whatever. But if you own a house, I think it's even probably worse. You lose your job. You can't make mortgage payments anymore. They're going to take the house. And I don't know what the law says whether you get your deposit back or what the stipulation is. Maybe you don't, maybe you do. But you're right back where you started, and you lost those years of your life. All because you wanted to own something rather than rent something. And granted, they're both shitty options, in my opinion. Anyways, this is just a video I wanted to come and talk about how the system works when it comes to renting apartments and things like that, and I kind of rambled on, but that's okay. I know you guys enjoy when I talk about things to do with this life, so I really appreciate your support in everything on this channel, all the videos I've done on this channel. Means a lot to me, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next video very soon. Bye for now.